Good morning, everybody. On this fine day, you're probably thinking, I know that face. Yeah, 25th of December every year, I come down your chimney. Now, I was here late last year, I think it was early this year, and spoke. Now, you might be thinking, really, we've got to do child-safe training? Yeah, sorry, it's one of the requirements now out of the Royal Commission. We've done the same thing, and it helps not get sued as well. There's a whole, we need to be seen to be doing the right thing. It's hard sometimes, but we're in the world even if we're not of it. So I'm Michael, I'm from Peninsula City Church, up the hill. I live here in Tyab. Paul is in our street. We call him the mayor of our street. And we've been in Tyab now. The end of November will be the 10th year. So we used to be in Somerville before that. And my son owns a cafe around the corner there, Prodigal. Yes. So we were trying to get a name for it, and he came up with the name because my wife calls him her prodigal son. We were coming up with all names, and he said, this is what I'm going to call it. So this morning I want to talk about one hero of the faith that hopefully will help impact heroes of the faith, you and I. And I've got this here now. What would you do in a similar situation to the one we're going to look at? Would you run away or would you have this? Not on my watch, you don't. And this is what this character from the Hebrew Bible actually did. Doesn't mention much about him, but the impact of his story and what he put into practice is immense. So I want to start off by asking, how often do you think about lentils? Do you spend a lot of time thinking about lentils? Because if you do, you've got too much time on your hands. Lentils, we don't think too much about them here in Australia, but when you travel overseas, India, Pakistan, some places like that, lentil is everywhere. Dal. You're not calling your wife dal. It's spelled a little different. And on the back of my notes is a recipe for dal. If you like dal, if you've never experienced it, why not give it a go? And you can make it as hot or not as hot as you want. But lentils, today's story is about lentils. I don't know which colour, but lentils. And, oh, you beautiful dal. The L should be up on the back end of that. But it's a simple, humble thing that doesn't cost much, doesn't look much. When you look at it, if you go online and Google lentil patches, it just looks like a bunch of weeds. So, if that's the case, why was a man willing to give his life to save a lentil patch? There was a story in 2 Samuel, chapter 23, and it's only here and one mention in Chronicles that we find it. And let me just read this story, or what we have about him, to you. These are the names of David's mightiest or bravest warriors. The first was Jehoshabeam, the Hamathite, who was the leader of the three mightiest warriors amongst David's men. He once used a spear to kill 800 warriors in a single battle. Next in rank among these three was Eleazar, the son of Dodai, the descendant of Ahoha. Once Eleazar and David stood together against Philistines when the entire Israelite army had fled. He killed Philistines until his hand was too tired to lift his sword, and the Lord gave him a great victory. The rest of the army did not return until it was time to collect the plunder. However, it's the third one that I would like to look at. Next in rank is Shammah. Now, you might be familiar with that word, Shammah. Jehovah Shammah or Yahweh Shammah means God is here, but Shammah is He is here. son of Agi, for Harah. One time the Philistines gathered at Lenhi and attacked the Israelites in a field of lentils. The Israelite army fled. But Shammah made his stand and held his ground in the middle of the field and beat back the Philistines. So the Lord brought or squeezed about a great victory of salvation or deliverance. Lentils, really? Willing to give his life for a lentil patch? You've got to be joking. Where did this happen? Well, here is, I've circled Lehi here. Jebus is the old name of Jerusalem. Here's Bethlehem. So it gives you a bit of an idea of roughly where it was. You'll notice it's on a river. And it was a prized piece of land heading down towards the hills towards the Mediterranean Sea. And it was his land. It was his plot. And the Philistines who lived in that region, Ekron, Tishnar and everywhere, would wait till the crops are ready, then attack, get some free food, easy food, demoralise the Israelites, and as we saw in the story, they all ran away. But why run away over a field? Why stand and fight in a field of lentils? Would you do that? Take the lentils, I'll get more lentils. But it wasn't like that in that day. You couldn't just go to the IGA across the road and buy some more. They were an agrarian society. They grew to eat or grew to eat and sell. So that maybe they sell to buy something else that they need, maybe buy a goat or repair the house or clothing or material to make clothes. So being an agrarian society, they relied on the land. Having been to Israel a number of times, it's a very rocky place. So even to grow, you've got to get a good piece of land. We're going again this month, taking a team of 30 on the 24th. So it's only a handful of us have been there before. So what I love when I take people is this phrase, wow, now that makes sense. Because we're reading the book at two-dimensional, but when you see it, it becomes three-dimensional. Oh, he went from there to there, that's not far. Or he tried to plant a lentil patch there. Really? Look at it, it's rocky. So rocky. Which makes the parable of the sower make sense. The first time I went to Israel, I thought that the farmer was a bit of a twit. Why you keep throwing your seed on the rock? Or why don't you put it in the ground? But when you go to Israel, the rocks aren't just on the surface, but they're below. And it costs a lot of money, it's a lot of time and a lot of effort to dig the rocks out. And I was talking to a guy there's a lot of banana plants grown in Israel. I said, why do you grow so many bananas? He said, because they're shallow rooted. Because not only do we need roots for the top, we need them to go down deep. And the rocks are underneath. So this is a piece of land that has been worked. The rocks are taken out. Now the lentils don't have a deep root system, but they're deep enough so that the wind doesn't blow them away. And so he's worked the land, taken out the rocks, blood, sweat and tears. It's my family, who knows where it's been passed on from. And he wants to pass it on to the next generation because there's an inheritance here. And I'm willing to fight for my inheritance. I'm willing to stand against, and it doesn't tell us how many Philistines, it's just a group. Now, whether it was 10, 20, 50, 100, who knows? But he stood his ground and said, not on my watch, mate. So he was prepared to fight for God, king and country. This is a God-given land. This is my inheritance. I am one of David's three. And I'm not going to let my king be bad-mouthed by these people, or I'm not going to be defeated for my country, and they're not going to take this patch off me. It not only belongs to Israel, it belongs to my family and my children. And I'm willing to die for it. I'm going to stand in a tiny little patch and fight. And like I said, when you look, it's only lentils, mate. It's all right, get another patch. No, it doesn't work like that. That was probably when the land was divvied up under Joshua. This was probably with the lot that fell to his clan, his tribe, his clan, his family. Here's your inheritance. You're going to stand and fight for it, or you're going to just let someone run over the top of you and take it off and terrorise you. And whether he looked like that or not doesn't really matter, but Google helps us there. But he was a soldier in that moment, and to the point that David said, he's one of my top three, because David had a lot of soldiers, but these were known as the three. Imagine that, walking down the street, oh, he's one of the three. How do they know? It says it on the back of his T-shirt. But maybe he's not number one, but he's number three. And that's got to say something out of the whole army that he's willing to stand and fight for. And he said, stop, no further. But it reminds me of a story or a bit of teaching that Paul gives in the New Testament in the book of Ephesians. Now, Ephesus was a place that was full of idolatry, spiritual darkness. The ruins are still there today, Ephesus, but it's not what it was. It was one of those places that was high traffic from Europe into Asia Minor or modern Turkey today, and they had the big statue of Diana of the Ephesians, and it was just a really, really dark place. And Paul then goes on and talks about this whole process, which is very similar to what we've just been looking at. Paul says to the Ephesians, therefore, and the reason he said therefore is because of what I've just said, or in light of what I've just said. Put on every piece of God's armour so that you'll be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil, like Shammah had to. Then after the battle, you will be standing firm. Stand your ground, putting on the belt of truth and the armour body of righteousness, and so forth and so forth and so forth. But he says the reason that we're fighting is this. We are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in heavenly places. A person's coming towards you, but who's behind that person? And Paul says, yes, that person's giving you a hard time, but take it higher. And then once you've done it, stand your ground. Grab your sword, stand in your lentil patch and say, no further. But we do it on our knees, so to speak. Whether we stand to pray, sit to pray, walk to pray, kneel to pray, that's not the issue. It's not the body position, it's the position of the heart in all of this. And as Shammah stood the ground, because the Philistines worshipped other gods, Dagon and so forth, there was spiritual darkness. And I'm sure Shammah and his family would have been praying as well to get that supernatural strength to stand against this enemy. Well, sometimes we need to pray and bring others in alongside of us, just like Moses in the battle with Joshua on one side and Hur on the other to hold his arms up for the battle to win. We sometimes need someone to stand in our lentil patch with us. What's your lentil patch? Your home, your health, your family, your street, your community, your state, your country. Some people are saying our country's gone to the dogs. Maybe, but God hasn't. Going through COVID, woe is me, pastor, go, hang on a minute, whoa. Just stop and look out the window, what do you see? I see a tree. Oh, that's nice, where's the tree planted? Across the road. Yeah, but where's that? Mornington Peninsula. Oh, wow, you live on the Mornington Peninsula. Oh. Do you realise you live in the top 3% of the world? Oh, yeah. And but my husband's just lost his job. Yeah, but at that moment, in that time, you were getting JobKeeper, job seeker, and such is sick. Yeah, but look at the medical system that we've got. I've been to India, I'll tell you what. Even the hospitals, you walk and you're going, oh, I hope I don't get that injection. Who knows how many other people have had it? We live in a great world. I said, and finally, if that's not enough, did you know Jesus is still on the throne? He hasn't abdicated. He didn't get COVID and then he's in hospital. Oh, I said, maybe just shift your perspective a little bit. From woe is me to, yes, I'm going through some stuff, but he's still on the throne. And I'm going through it in a country that I can get help. Not everywhere around the world got job seeker and job keeper. We saw on the news, and you would have seen it too, in India when it went crazy, they couldn't even get in the hospital and they're bringing gas tanks into burnt out cars as a shell for cover. So we need to lift our perspective sometimes and see that the battle is spiritual. That doesn't mean our obligation is not part of it, because there's a partnership. Every morning, and I did the same thing, or most mornings, and I did the same thing this morning. Dad, what are you doing today? Can I be part of whatever you're doing in this around me? And that could be prayer, it could be helping someone, it could be saying something. Whenever I go to work and I set my diary out, I know there's things going to come at the end of the day be in my diary that I never put in. That he's going to go, there's a phone call, there's this, there's that. Someone says, I can't go to Israel. I've just had an operation, my foot's not healing. I said, have you talked to Dad about it? He goes, no. I go, well, let's do it right now. Bang. How's your foot? Oh, not bad. Now they're coming to Israel. That wasn't in my diary. But I was willing to stand with that person in their lentil patch and fight with them. Partnership. Yeah, the doctors did what they did, but now they needed to do what they could. So what do you need to stand for in your lentil patch? What is your lentil patch? What would you do in a similar situation? I don't know what's going on in your world, but you do. And maybe some around you do as well. But I'll tell you what, so does Dad. He's actually sent his Spirit into our lives who are with us all the time. He's given us his word. We don't live in isolation. We have other Christ followers around us that can stand with us, walk with us, and we can do it over the phone. If we can't get there, we can do it over Zoom. Oh, Zoom. We can do it over Zoom. We can do it over FaceTime. We can do it text. Will you stand with me today? I'm going through a bit of a challenge. Yeah, what is it? Blah, blah, blah. Yes, let's pray right now and I'll continue. It's as simple as that, but we don't do it. And we wonder why sometimes we come out the other end and we're saying, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. I was surprised through COVID how many mature Christians fell to pieces. And they went, I'm so anxious, I'm so fearful of this and that and the other thing. Okay, hang on. You are a son of God. You are a daughter of God. Yeah, I know that. Well, let it slip from here to here. Have a theological landslide into the heart. Can I stand with you in prayer? Yes, that would be great. Who else have you got standing? Or they come to me and expect me to pray. I go, have you talking to Dad first? No. Well, what are you coming to me for? Talk to him first. You know, you don't have to book a call. Do you remember the days when you had to book a call? I was in India and I had to book a call for the next day at a certain time to ring my wife. My first question was, this is back in 89, who won, Geelong or Hawthorn? And she goes, hello to you too. But we had to book a call. We don't have to wait at a certain time in the day because of our internet plan or our phone plan. He's listening all the time about everything and ready and willing to be there for us and with us. I remember saying that one time and I said, you know, he even knows when you're on the toilet. And at the end of the service, I had a grandma come to me and goes, don't say that. He knows whether I'm on the toilet. I said, oh, I'm sorry, but he does. He even knows when you're in the bath. She said, that's enough. But what I'm saying, he is there. Like Shema, he was there. Are you there? Or have you run away? Have those around you run away? Well, let them run if they can't stand, but why don't you stand? Especially in this day and age where the economic climate is challenging. People are losing jobs, interest rates are through the roof. My wife was telling me about something we bought and it was $6 3 months ago, and now it's $8. She noticed the 50-cent increments that it went up by. And that's just one thing. Are you willing to declare, not on my watch it don't, then back your declaration with action? And the greatest action we can do is pray. Sometimes we just need to say, no further. Satan, yeah, I know, yeah. But Dad knows, and I'm going to listen to him. I don't care what you say. As Bill said today, guilt. That's not part of God's strategy. Conviction is, but guilt and shame isn't. That's one of the enemy's great weapons, guilt and shame. You know, we don't do it because we feel guilty or we feel ashamed because of what we've said, done, haven't done. He deals with conviction and he says, this is the issue, now we're going to deal with it together. Dealt with, move on. But the enemy comes on and goes, hey, remember that issue? I go, yeah, I do. So does Dad. But it's gone. As far as the east is from the west, it tells me. Are you willing to say, not on my watch, for your health, for your children's health, your grandchildren's health, for your neighbour's health? During lockdown, our neighbour, the husband ended up with prostate cancer. And she said to my wife, could you pray? We know you've got connection to the guy upstairs. Yeah, so we prayed. Then she gets a report back. He's, when it's not active anymore, what's that, benign? Yeah. It's benign. Well, can you say thanks to the bloke upstairs? Yeah, no worries. But you know what she did? She went around our whole court and told everybody that if you've got an issue, go to Michael or Diane. They've got direct connection. We didn't have to say anything. Then he had a heart attack and his pacemaker was rejecting because of some infection. Same thing. Same result. It worked. Then she goes around the neighbours again. Anyway, we're having our Christmas barbecue after COVID and the new neighbours have moved in and one of the ladies, she's standing there, they've got drinks and they're just talking and we've got the barbecue going and they're playing games and she goes, I hear you're a minister. I said, yeah, I am. And the husband goes, okay, strike one. I said, what do you do for a crust? He said, I work down the Navy base. I've been there for the last 10 years. Oh, I've got a good friend who works down the Navy base. I told him who it is. Oh, Commander such and such. Strike two. I don't know how many strikes I was going to get. But then one day they're going away. And you know when your neighbour goes away and they say, oh, can you just keep an eye over on the house? We're going to be gone for a weekend or a couple of weeks. They came over with a note and left it with some jars of marmalade and said, oh, we'll be gone for 3.5 years. Can you keep an eye on the house? 3.5 years. And then they put on the note, we know what you do. We see it through our cameras. We go, what have we done? We didn't have cameras. We see you bringing in our bins when they're not brought in. Ah. Sharing with our, but in neighbourly. But to them, hopefully it took out a couple of, at least one of them. So are you willing to stand? Or run away, run away. Can I say stop running? Enough. Today is a day to draw a line in the sand. Enough. Don't run anymore. Stop. Face up to responsibilities because I saw this picture and there's this cat and there's a dog in front of the cat going to jump on the cat, but the dog's scared. But what the cat didn't know, behind the cat was a lioness. That's why the dog was scared. You might think it's just little old me, but with you is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. With me, he's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. But sometimes it doesn't feel like it, does it? I think I'm out on a limb here. I think I've opened my mouth just to change feet again. No, he's with us all the time. Whether we feel like it or not. It's got nothing to do with our feelings. We are called believers, not feelers. We need to believe and then grow in our understanding and knowledge as we read and engage, and then get a story, the mention of testimony, get a story and say, guess what? Guess what God did? Guess what happened? I lost my job. There was a guy who was telling me a story just recently. He said through COVID he lost his job. But he said out of it, I've got this other job, less hours, more pay, I'm with my family more. Wow. We don't know what's there. And we need to trust him in that. So we need to stand up. Stand for our lentil patch. What was the name of the guy who was the third in David's? Did you say Shema? Here you go, come up and get your reward. My wife did the wrapping. I can't do the bows. It's probably a piece of string if I did it. The only thing is you've got to unwrap it while you're here and show everybody your beautiful present. You can have the box too when you're finished. There is something in there. Lentils. And there's a recipe on the back if you want to try dal on the back of the notes. I would have given everybody lentils, but
Got up from $6 to $8.
yeah, it's gone to 60. Remember, we've all been given a lentil patch. And we can call it our family. We can call it our business. We can call it our health. We can call it our future. We can call it our inheritance. We can call it children, grandchildren, this town, this state. Are we willing to fight for our lentil patch? And people might never, if you do it by yourself, might never see you fighting because your fighting might be on your knees, so to speak. I know people like to walk. My great prayer closet is my car. Now, they're probably thinking I'm singing to the radio or something, but I can just talk. But we need to stand and fight for our lentil patch. We need to stand. 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 Did you hear what I said? We need to stand. I can't stand for you. I can stand with you, but are you willing to stand? What is there in your life today that you need to stand for? Dad? Yeah, I've told him already. Again? Okay. Stand. Stand. Stand for your lentil patch. What is it that you're going through right now that maybe is like a dog in front of you, but the dog can and will look scared because he sees the lion behind you. You might feel like a little pussycat. Can I pray for you? I can't be there all the time, but he is, because as Shema says, he's there. But it's Jehovah or Yahweh, whichever one you want to use. God or the Lord is there. Father, I just lift up my brothers and sisters that are here today. I don't know what they're going through. You do and they do. Help them to stand, whether it's financial, work, house, health, whatever it is, locally, that you would give them the strength to realise that they have the armour of God. On our side, we have the King of Kings. We have the Spirit of God. Christ has said, it is finished. Then he rose again and sits at the right hand of the Father, interceding on our behalf. You've given us the book with evidence in it and story after story after story of victory, just like Shema. That in the lentil patches, a story is being built, and that story might be declared somewhere, somehow, some way of your goodness, your greatness, and your victory in partnership with each person. Thank you for hearing, and thank you for answering in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you very much for the privilege.